Welcome to Effluxeffects Studios. In this tutorial we will cover creating and importing animated Iclone 7.1 characters into Element 3D for use with After Effects. To do this we will use Mixamo for the animations, Iclone 7.1 and Character Creator 2 for animated characters, Blender to create the OBJ sequence, Element 3D, and finally After Effects to create a 3D scene. Okay, let's get started. So we're going to go ahead and open Mixamo. That's www.mixamo.com, and you can see here I kind of just got a random character here dancing just to show you how it starts. So the first thing we're going to do is I always like to work with the bots. They seem to work better in my opinion. So in this case I'm going to use the Y bot, and then go ahead and when you open the character up, this new character will stay with the same animation. So we really want a T-pose to start with. So we're going to go ahead and clear the animation by clicking on the X. And now we've got a T-pose, which we'll need to create our non-standard character. So go ahead and select FBX and T-pose and download. And then once that downloads, we're going to go ahead and pick an animation. So we just go up here on the left and we click on the Animations tab. And in this case, I want kind of an idle. I'm looking for the character to just kind of look over his shoulder. And there's a really good idle animation that shows that. So we'll double click on that and you can see the animation. We can make any adjustments to the stance, the arm spacing, the speed, even mirror it. We're going to go ahead and download an FBX. Make sure you click without skin, the desired frame rate, and no keyframe reduction. So once you download those, we'll just go ahead and copy those into a directory. In this case, I'll bring it into the directory that for the tutorial. All right, so once we have these copied over, let's go ahead and open Iclone. And you'll see I have a character loaded from Character Creator, and I'm just going to throw some accessories on them that I would want for the final scene. Nothing special, just double click on the items and they'll load onto the character. They're set up. Sorry, having some mouse problems there, but then I'm going to put something, I need something in his hand just to kind of show you how to form the fingers. So I'm going to put a pistol in there since this is kind of a military scene. And now I'm going to open up 3DX Exchange, go to the location where I have the YBot, and you're going to import the YBot into 3D Exchange. Leave everything checked, click OK. The YBot comes in just fine. I'm going to go ahead and import the animation, and again just double click on it, leave everything checked. The character itself works just fine with the idle animation, as you can see, but you'll notice you can't apply it to Iclone. So we really have to convert to non-standard first. So I'm just going to clear out the animation and the second YBot that it loaded. And I'm going to go to convert to non-standard. And we used to be able to just click the Maya Human IK and the status here on the right would turn green, but that's not working. So we're going to have to rig the character. It's actually pretty straightforward. It's not too hard. I always recommend that you start from the hips and then you work your way out to each extremity. So you click on the right, it'll turn green, and then we select the bone, the rig there, and then we just work our way up. And then you'll see the little down arrows. Those are so you can add additional. Always, you'll notice how I'm working my way up and selecting the shoulders. Don't start from the top or skip spaces. Same thing with the neck. Since we have some rigging for the neck, we have one bone there, we select, and then of course the head, and then we'll go to the arm. Same thing, keep working your way out, and you just select them on the character on the right, and then you select the corresponding bone here on the character, and you'll see it's still red because you have to select all of the main bones. And I'll come back to the fingers here in a second. So we're working our way down the legs. There is a, you can see here at the feet, there's an extra bone in this rig, but we don't have that set up, and you'll find we don't need it. So now we're going to come to the fingers. I always recommend starting at at the back end and work your way out. The little kind of diamond, I guess, shape, for lack of a better way to say it, on the end of the finger are for like sensing for walls or touching. So make sure you're selecting them as well with the little circles up at the top, and work your way out. And we'll finish all the bones here. And again, just take your time, and it's a lot of them, but you'll only have to do this once, and then you can use this profile going forward. I'll speed it up here a little bit on the other hand, just to again, you've already seen it's the same on one or the other. Now you see your green, so but yet you can't convert, so you'll of course want to make the character active. One of the things at this point is I recommend you save a custom profile, and so basically you just click on save on the upper right, you give it a name and save it. You're going to see you're going to need it here in a second. So when you convert, you'll come down and you'll convert to non-standard. You'll select go right back into import, and you'll notice it will not let you import your animation. So you have to go back into the convert to non-standard, and you'll see right there the character's missing. So uncheck the active, and now load the file you just saved, the profile. And once you click open, it'll load that profile. Now it looks like what you would expect. You can do some checks, basic. In my case, I'll check it with the run, and I usually like to do the finger calibration to make sure the fingers are working. Selected the wrong one there, and now we'll select preview. Okay, the fingers are working, so we're active. Go back to your T pose and hit preview. So we'll go back and then hit convert. Just click OK, and now we've got we can import our animation. And you'll see now it will apply the animation. We don't get that error anymore. So now we have something that's compliant, fully rigged, and you can see now we can apply to Iclone. So make sure that your character is selected in Iclone, and then you just again hit apply to Iclone. And now we'll jump in and start rigging the fingers. And to do that, you go the edit motion layer. I like the IK mode for these. It gives you both hands, and we just start kind of moving the fingers and getting them into place. The reason I like to do this after the first animation's applied instead of in the T pose, you'll kind of see in a minute, because when you apply the animation, many times it will override anything you set up, so you end up doing it again. So do it at the beginning of the first animation, and then we'll kind of walk through. And again, you're just using the circular orbit tool and getting the fingers where you want them. I'm not going to get it perfect, as the real purpose of this is just to show you what to do. And if you'll hold the Alt button and then the left and right mouse buttons is, you can move around the characters. So I'm not really calling out there at the bottom of the screen, so I'm not calling out the different commands. But you can see you just use the tools in the mouse, and you can work your way through each digit of the fingers. We've got them fully rigged, so as you can see, everything's working, and you're able to move it and just get it all angled where you want it. We'll get to the thumb here in a second. So right now we're basically setting him up so he's holding that particular device. And make sure, I guess I didn't mention it, make sure you're on the first frame, because if you're not on frame 1, that'll come back to haunt you. You can fix it, but it's a pain. You have to start moving keyframes around, and just more headache than it's worth. So now we can close the motion layer up, and we've got the fingers. So now I'll kind of zoom in and show you where there's a problem. We're going to test run the animation. Now watch his fingers in particular when he moves. you'll notice that, see them in the background, see how the fingers are moving? So the animation itself has the fingers pulling in. So we'll want to fix that. The other thing I want to do is slow down the animation. So we'll bring up the timeline so you can see a few things here. So if you look under motion, you can see where the animation is. And if you look, it's at 1 times right now. So if you go up, you see I selected the box with the arrows. If you drag it, you can actually speed up or slow down the animation. It'll stretch it. So I'm going to bring it out, about 150%, and it will slow it down. So you'll see the 0.53 slow. So now you see he's kind of looking around a little slower. It's not so fast. But I haven't done anything with the fingers. So how do you address that, right? So what we're going to do here, you'll see, is we're going to go ahead and sample that particular hand, his right hand, and the keyframes. So if you right click on the motion and then click sample and then sample selected parts, you'll get a box here to select, and we're only going to look at the right fingers to sample. We don't need to pull everything out. If you're going to use the curve editor and smooth anything out, you'll want to just sample all the parts or they won't show up. Then you drag across to select everything but the first frame, just delete them. And now, since I just want him to grip the pistol, he's not firing or anything, now you can see the hands stay where they're at and he's got a slower motion. So that's really all it takes to get the character to hold the pistol or anything, a Coke can, a ball, whatever it is. You can still use the animations, and then you can use the sample parts in the curve editor. So now I'm going to want to export it. I'm going to export to FBX, 30 frames a second. I want to export to Blender and all, and embed textures. And I leave all the other stuff unchecked. And again, this is under File, Export, and then select FBX. And now you're going to just click Export, find your location where you want to put it, name it, and we've got tutorial 1, and it'll process here fairly quickly, and now you have a fully set up XBX file. All right, so let's open up Blender, and we're going to use that to create an OBJ file. So just click on the right click, left click on the background, hit X, delete. Just click on the delete to get rid of the box, and now we'll go ahead and we will import our character, our FBX file that we created, and import and FBX under the file menu, and just click on it. And a couple things you'll notice: you'll have to locate the file, so you go over to the left, and in my case I have it under tutorials. All you gotta do is locate your FBX, double click on it, and it will load up. You can see there's the path and the item, so it's telling you where it's getting it from. You go down to the lower left, do not click on experimental. There's some people say to do so. You do not need to do that out of Iclone. Make sure all the other items are checked so that you'll get the file in the format you want, and import FBX. It'll take just a minute, not too long, and once it opens up, it will bring you back to the main screen. There you go. And you'll notice the big armatures. You'll think you messed something up. Just zoom in by scrolling the middle mouse wheel. Hold the middle mouse wheel and you can move it around. Do not worry about the armatures. They're not relevant to what you're trying to do for making an OBJ. If we were working in Blender, we'd talk about it. But anyway, go down, click the playhead, and you'll see it moves and the character's moving as you want it. So that's all you need. So if you scroll out with the middle mouse wheel here, and you can see the camera and the lamp, one of the things I like to do is just delete them, because again, I just want to keep this simple. This is not a Blender tutorial, it's how to get an OBJ. So right click on each one of those and just delete them. All we're focused on. Then select A, which will select all, so that we will export the animation and the character into an OBJ. Go down, File, Export, Wavefront OBJ, click on it, and it will bring you back to the file menu. If you go down here to the left, you'll see The only change you have to make to the settings is the animation. The animation is what ultimately creates, instead of single OBJ, the sequence. You can do selection only, since obviously we have selected everything we want. That's important if you're only going to send out part of the scene. But again, we're sending everything. Again, we're keeping it simple. Go select your path in the upper left. In this case, I've got a Blender sequence file. I'll just put it there. We will be creating, you'll create one OBJ and material file for each frame. Label it. I'm gonna come up with, I'm just gonna call it tutorial. No reason to get fancy on the name. And once you have everything set, click export, and it's gonna take a while because it's got to create essentially one file for each frame. So, but if you come over here to the sequence, just to make sure everything's working, you can see that it's creating a material file and an OBJ file, and it will go through all 250 frames. So I'm going to speed this up here, and we can move on. All right, so once it's done, it'll take you back automatically to the main frame. You'll see everything selected, and you're actually good to go. You don't have anything else you need to do with Blender. And now we're gonna, if you want, open the file. You can check it, but it's gonna be fine. And then now let's open After Effects, new comp, composition, new comp. You can name it if you want. 1920 480, 30 frames a second. Layer, new. And if you go to new solid, you can name it element, because we are going to use that. We're going to bring it in here using element 3D, so video copilot element. There you go. You've got element loaded, scene set up. And now do not use import. Go to file and then import and then 3D sequence. The other import will only import the first frame that you select. Select the first one, use auto normals, and leave everything else the same. You'll be fine. Make sure you click normalize size, and there he is. So scroll around in the element, you can kind of see that we have a little work to do. The character looks very smooth. So the first thing we need to do is let's find an environment. I just want something that's kind of green. I use the basic 10. Play with your adjustments till you get what you want. There are a lot of things you can do with the materials here. We're not going to cover in this, but please play with them. You can get different reflections, different opacities, and you can really dial this in. But for now, we'll keep it right here. And you'll notice he's really smooth, but more importantly, look how sharp the edges is. So what you're going to do is you select the character, and you're going to scroll on down to the surface options and the normal threshold. You want to increase that until you see everything smooth out. Now, his skin is very smooth, so clearly something's not right. And if you come over here to the tutorial, and I'm just going to pick his head, and you'll notice you'll see the bump maps in red. What that means is it didn't find it. It's looking in the wrong place. So find where you have your bump map. You can use Iclone to do it. And just double click on it, and now see you've got the bump map. I get rid of the convert bump because it seems to amplify everything to a level I don't like. So just uncheck that, and there you go. There's your bump map. Now you see there's some texture to the skin. Look at the difference. And you're going to need to go through, and usually if one's missing, they're all missing. Now you can copy everything into the directory. I don't like to move stuff. And you can also use, you can do a locate on those. Just for this tutorial, and because I'm only doing a couple, I'm not gonna mess with that because it take me a couple minutes to get it where I want it. And I just want to show you how to find stuff if you're missing, one of the files, a bump map or normal, diffuse, whatever. It's very easy to go out and find it. And you'll see as I add those, look at the textures. It's starting to add, right, that it's starting to make it look like it's more real, like there's actually someone wearing this. And you just go through everyone. I'll do one more, right? You do the pants, and you'd get the same thing. Just go to the path where it's at and replace it. And again, you can do a locate and find these, but I'm just trying to show you. Sometimes maybe you've done a custom one, so you want to actually tell it where to go, and you might have different ones going to different places if you do that. So this gives you some options. I just kind of want to show you how I do it if you need to. Now, click out of it. You're back in After Effects. I'm going to go back in here real quick and select the character and add one more item. Show you one of the things, and you can pick what you want here. But if you go down to your surface options, the subdivision level, I like to increase it. I think it gives you more polygons and it smooths things out a little bit. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to start building the scene for you, and we need to add a background, right? So I did a background here, just real quick. It's nothing fancy. It's just a scene in the woods, and we'll just drag it down, and we'll just use that to create our 3D scene. Whoops, put it in front, pull it down and behind. There we go. So now we'll have to get the character and start working him into the scene. So we're going to create a camera because we have to, the camera is what turns it into a 3D scene. Without the camera, it's going to be flat and everything will be 2D, and you won't get, the benefit of really taking advantage of all the movement. Now, one of the things you'll want to do, since you've got a camera, you got to get everything spaced. So turn the background into a 3D layer and turn off accept lights. The backgrounds, you almost never want to accept the light, which we haven't created yet, but we will here in a second. And then next thing I always do is create a null. This guy's in group 1, so create null, and there you go. So we can move him around. This way we can keep the base settings in Element, and it's easier to make changes if you're doing a more complex scene or you're moving the character a lot. In this case, I want to bring him way out to the front just to show you a little bit how we can do this, but you can put him anywhere you want in the background. Now the background's still right up against. We'll have to make a change here. So go to the 2 horizontal views, and you see the background is right there where he's at. So what we want to do is, it's background, let's move it back and kind of think in terms of how far back. You don't want the trees too far behind him, but a little bit. So once you get there, just scale it up so it covers, and there you go. So now you've kind of got a 3D animation. So when you start moving the camera, you'll see, because so the background will move with him and in a more realistic setting. So with that, we also need a light. I like to kind of get the main color scheme, so I'll click on the picker and find a color that kind of will bring out the scene. I always start with intensity 100 and see where it goes. Well, in this case, that's way too green, right? So just go back in, and I still like the shade. It's just I want to make the light a little more, add a little more white and brightness to the light. There we go. And that will look a little more real. I'm going to leave everything for now. I'm not going to really place the light. You can see the natural light would be in front. We could definitely make some adjustments there, but again, I don't think that's necessary for this particular scene, so we'll stay with it. So probably the next thing we'll do is go to the render settings and ambient occlusion. I like it. I will tell you, turn it on and then play with the settings. You can see it kind of deepens and makes the shadows more dynamic. I'm not going to do a lot of adjusting for this tutorial because you could spend 20 minutes just really dialing that in. So subsurface scattering enabled, and then go to your lighting, right? So you see if we turn off the lights, since the character goes dark, and you could add lighting to, but this way when you select the lighting you can adjust it. You can also select whether you're going to have shadows and different things there. Again, for this one and where he's at, there's no real necessity for a shadow, but again, there are other tutorials that could cover that. Adjust your, I like to always play with the exposure. I don't do a lot with the tint or the gamma. I normally will just use adjustment layers to get what I want. In this one, you don't need reflections, motion blur, any of that. So it just wouldn't, he's not moving quick enough to really need any of those settings. So I just say kind of leave it. You got the light where you want it. You could go back in and really make the glasses, if you want it, very reflective, which could give it a cool look, but we won't do it here. You just go back in, select the glasses, and you can adjust the settings to where you like them. So here we are. We're going to hit P on the camera, and we're going to start moving it around. Hit C, and you get the orbit tool, and go ahead and keyframe. Then we're going to go out. There's 250 frames, so go out to frame 250. Again, you've selected the orbit tool for the camera. Level the autosave, and just kind of left click, use the orbit tool, and move the camera around. So you're going to kind of get kind of a circular view. The camera's going to kind of like orbit around him. And once you get that, you can adjust the scene length to the same 250. It'll loop. There are settings in there. You can stop it from looping, but again, there's hundreds and hundreds of settings. We don't need to worry about that. So we're going to go ahead and put a new adjustment layer for our final deal here. Get your curves from your presets and effects. Just kind of clean it up a little bit. Get rid of some of the basically add some contrast to it, so everything just kind of pulls in a little bit. Gets rid of some of that hazy look sometimes. You can see the difference there, and we pretty much have the scene where it kind of looks like he's in the woods looking around. And what we'll do is we'll kind of do a preview. It will be slow. I will tell you that the sequences are really tough. They each frame, it's got to load all the data, so it will take some time. But if you're patient and work with it, it'll give you some really good results. So I've gone in and sped ahead, and you can kind of see what it looks like. And you can just see him looking around. And so now we've created a scene. We've got that camera orbiting, and you can play. You can move the background further back, further up. And then here's a scene just trying to show you. You can add fire. You can, whatever you want. Just play around. So thank you for watching.